Chatham House has thought it fit to invite me since 2013 to their new producers group. First in Tanzania, and then in some other exotic place, I think it was Kenya. So it's important that their involvement at this time in Guyana, although a novelty, and it's indeed wonderful that they can get here this quickly, it should not be taken out of context that they're just here because of a discovery. They have had their focus on Guyana for some time, and we're very happy that they had understood that it is necessary to remain having a supporting role with Guyana. Over the past year, government mainly, and then broader afield, there has been an amplification of the conversation on governance of Guyana's petroleum sector. That is now a reality rather than speculation. And in fact, I have to transform or reprogram myself, because usually when I'm making remarks or giving some kind of presentation, it was with a view of trying to convince people that Guyana does have all the necessary technical aspects to be a petroleum producer. So I have to reset myself to make sure that I'm not speaking in that vernacular. So, as these discussions progress, and for those who are the general participants, I wish to encourage you to reset your baseline thinking and keep an open mind. The business of petroleum, while commonplace, is by its nature unique in many respects, and particularly in the scale of operation, the scale of economics, the scale of estate and such. That means the governance systems that will be revealed here, if even at an introductory level, to be implemented in any fashion. And we're not looking for a cut and paste solution. We're looking for solutions that are suitable for us. And what will be presented here is experiences from all over the world that we will have to somehow distill out for our own end product. So what we would want to implement in any fashion will occasion a substantial commitment to changing attitudes to systems and administration. As huge as the petroleum business is, there are very ordinary things and circumstances which can undermine its efficiency. For example, not being time conscious in decision making can add to risk of uncertainty. And an inefficient petroleum sector or industry quickly becomes a liability. And because of the huge economies of scale, it can then become an unwelcome elephant in the china shop. It is needed, therefore, that there is a fundamental appreciation by all of what is critical to keep us on the best track for our future. I observe many familiar faces here who are bringing to you their wealth of knowledge and experiences. I assure you that with full attention and participation, you will be empowered in different ways. You will likely have more questions than these sessions can answer, but I can assure you also that Chatham House is no slouch in follow-up. This process is not static. If, and I must mention here too that if it isn't mentioned, if anything should be taken away from this, is that our expectations in all respects must be given due place and consideration. We want a lot for ourselves, but we must be practical. And we cannot go over the top in what our expectations should be going down the road. So I would hope that in this conversation that will ensue over these next 2 days on good governance, that we were able to join those who are like us in the new producers role, who have gone before us in the new producers role and are now producing, that we in Guyana are able to benefit from the good bounties that we have. And in that regard, I'm also speaking about petroleum. And again, that puts context to what I've said before about expectations.
We've been partnering with a number of entities, both locally and internationally. And through this partnership, we've had exposures in various areas. The Chatham House is one such entity that has been lending support to the government of Guyana, even before May 2015, as Mr. Dennison would have pointed out. But most recently, a team from the ministry would have benefited from some exposure. And whilst there, the opportunity presented itself to host a session here in Guyana. Now, I should mention that today's session is ideally designed for the regulatory agencies and the government. But Minister Trotman thought it best that we invite the private sector, we invite civil society, and we invite those persons that have a role to play so that we all share the knowledge at the same time, because knowledge management is important. Tomorrow, we'll be having 2 sessions, one for the persons in the legal fraternity, and the second for persons in the accounting fraternity, and those are going to be held right here. Now, the key aid and partner in actually making this possible is the Chatham House. I'd like to invite Ms. Valerie Marcel to the podium to tell us a bit about the cooperation and what we can expect over the next 2 days.
It's a true pleasure to be here with you in Guyana this week. I'm very grateful that we have this opportunity to be here at this very exciting time in the development of your resource here in Guyana. It's a privilege to be part of discussions that aim to identify the ways forward, to tailor the lessons that you hear from elsewhere to your Guyanese context. And to be part of that, I think, is a real privilege. I thought I would like to just introduce this new producers group that has been talked about so that you understand a little bit where we come from. If you could turn to the next slide. The new producers group brings together about 30 different countries that are in the exploration phase, have just made a discovery like Guyana, or just starting to produce new discoveries. And together they share best practice. So it's really like a peer-to-peer network between producer countries to just learn mistakes made along the way, usually quite recently, lessons learned, good practice, in a really safe place where we have a freedom to exchange without fear of embarrassment, really. So I think one of the key points of our project is that we're not trying to implement best practice, this sort of gold standard that might be discussed when you're thinking of Norway or of a very established producer that has a specific set of circumstances. What we want is appropriate practice, something that's adapted to the national context, exactly as you were saying, Noah. More effective practice, so you get rapid results because you need them quickly. And better practice, so thinking of incremental improvements. You don't need to have your end solution today or tomorrow. You work towards it gradually, and you have achievable steps along the way. So you don't get overwhelmed by the massive, the gigantic task that you have ahead of you when you're on after a discovery. So if you could turn to the next slide. So I think what's unusual about this project is the peer-to-peer aspect, the fact that it's collaborative, and also that we have our discussions will be under the Chatham House rule, which enables people to speak frankly. This introductory session is not under Chatham House rule, so there are no restrictions to how you use the information. These are the members of the group, but we have a concept note in your folder that lists them if you want to look at them more carefully. But as you see, they're from really all over the world. and at very different stages of development, different national contexts. The main event we have, the heart of the program, is the discussion group meetings, where we bring together as many countries as we can fit around a table and exchange on what's the current, big question of the day. And that's changed tremendously when we had a high-price environment and now we have a low-price environment. It changes very much, the kind of conversation we have. This was our event in Kenya this year, and you may recognize a few of your compatriots in that photo. If you could go to the next one. We also have established mentoring relationships, and there is one between Guyana and Uganda, which is, we will have some Ugandans arriving today. And the exchange is very interesting because Uganda discovered oil 10 years ago and has taken very careful steps to prepare itself for first oil. So they had some interesting perspective on to exchange with Guyana. This is the mentoring exchange. We also can work more closely on specific questions with member countries to provide answers that are more specific. And we have a help desk function, which is basically very high tech. It involves sending me an email, but it works to charm. So we can connect producers to provide the answers, because sometimes the best answer just comes from another producer who's recently faced the same question. And then we have we have research and reports, which we've brought a number today. But the main product that we have is guidelines. So recommendations that are created by areas of consensus between all these countries, where we can say, we agree this is actually good practice, so let's put this to paper. And if there are areas where we don't agree, that's also very interesting, and we'll point that out in the guidelines, because different national contexts means you can't always agree on the best course of action. And so the guidelines are also available as a presentation, which is a clickable, interactive map here. And you see all the kinds of issues we talk about. Elaborating a strategic vision for the sector. We're going to be talking about these during the next 2 days here. Earning public trust, managing public expectations is very important after a discovery. Increasing local content, I know, is a big issue in Guyana as well. Developing capable national organizations, how to build capacity quickly to handle the important task you have ahead of you. And then increasing accountability. As you have more capable institutions, it becomes much more important to increase accountability and safeguarding the environment. Thank you very much. I think I'd like to just say that over these days, we are very keen to learn from you on your key priorities, where you see risks and you have concerns, and try to shape a really tailored roadmap for where Guyana should go in the next step. And we have participants, as I said, from Uganda, but also from Suriname, neighboring Suriname, and Liberia, as well as the more established experience that you can draw from Trinidad and Tobago.
In May of 2015, international offshore oil explorer ExxonMobil reported its discovery of hydrocarbons in the Liza-1 exploration well. The well was drilled by ExxonMobil affiliate in Guyana, that's ESSO Exploration and Production Guyana Limited, and its joint venture participants, Hess Guyana Exploration Limited and CNOOC Petroleum Guyana Limited. It is just over a year since this report was made. Much has transpired, and we are in an extraordinary process of transforming our nation. We now know that the Liza well contains a substantial deposit of hydrocarbons that are estimated to be within the range of 800 million to 1.4 billion barrels of high-quality crude oil. Possibly, and if we were to take Hess's press statements, possibly closer to the upper range that is tending towards the 1.4 million barrels. ExxonMobil and its joint venture partners have been working around the clock, gathering data, assessing the reservoir, taking preparatory steps towards production, and performing many investment calculations, which led them, just yesterday, Wednesday, 16th November, to make Guyanese history by being the first to formally notify the government of Guyana, in keeping with the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act of Guyana, Chapter 6501, that the discovery of oil in the Liza well is of commercial interest and value. This, in our opinion, was the trumpet call that heralds the coming of first oil. There is now great expectation, great excitement, and great responsibility in the weeks and months which lie ahead. Yesterday, we received this notification not only as the government of Guyana, but also as Guyanese citizens on behalf of all Guyanese. And so, as has been remarked, a watershed moment in our history, in our nation's history, rather, was created. One that impacts the very underpinnings of our previous existence as a people and alters the DNA of our present and future constructs, politically, economically, and socially. Even the context of the neighborly over-defense gaffe, as we refer to it, as is our custom in Guyana, will be altered forever. We are extremely blessed to have this opportunity and are pleased to have Exxon, Hess, and Nexen as our partners in this historic venture. The historic occurrence is further highlighted by the juxtaposition of today's oil price, which hovers around what ought to be of a discouraging $50 per barrel. Yet, this price offers us the unique and valuable opportunity to plan the development of our petroleum sector wisely and prudently. We have entered the petroleum industry at a conservative and watchful time when literally every cent matters more than ever. Our focus, therefore, is directed into deliberate considerations of the possible returns on such an investment and how to maximize them for the benefit of our nation, not just for today, but more so for generations to come. In local parlance, the oil price at $50 a barrel has immediately caused us to consider how to stretch our dollars. We are therefore conscious of living in a moment that will not pass this way again, and so the government has embarked on a process of resource management that will recalibrate our performance and change our trajectory to better align our nation with her destiny. This event, convened under the theme Governance of the Petroleum Sector, Preparing for First Oil, is not only one step in a continuum of capacity-building workshops, conferences, and engagements, but firmly solidifies Guyana's place in the new producers group. Development of the oil and gas sector is notorious for the risks and threats that it poses to economic and political stability and instability and to our environment. Management of the sector is a major challenge for governments and domestic institutions. The emerging consensus on mitigating risk is basically twofold. Firstly, governments must put in place institutions and regulatory frameworks that allow for transparent and efficient management of oil revenue. And secondly, oil windfall must be directed towards productive investments in physical and human capital so that long-term sustainable and equitable growth can be generated. It is against this backdrop that Guyana has sought and received support from a number of international experts and agencies for the development of its regulatory framework, prudent fiscal management policies, ensuring transparent processes for good governance, amongst others. Our partners include the UNDP, the Commonwealth Secretariat, the United States government through its Energy Governance Capacity Initiative, the Canadian government through its interactions with the University of Calgary on resource management and the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the government of Mexico and its Petroleum Institute, which hopefully will lead to the establishment of our own Petroleum Scientific Institute. A suite of new policies and legislation is soon to be presented for review through public consultations. They address the governance, regulation, and development of our petroleum sector and the establishment of the institutional framework and agencies. The following compendium of policies and laws is scheduled to be completed in draft format on or before December 31st, 2016. Firstly, our national oil and gas upstream policy. Secondly, local content policy. Thirdly, the revamping of our petroleum exploration and production legislation and regulations. Fourthly, Petroleum Commission legislation for regulation and oversight of the industry. Fifthly, petroleum taxation and fiscal legislation. Sixthly, a sovereign wealth fund legislation which will include provisions for a stabilization fund, an infrastructure and social development fund, and a citizens participation fund. And lastly, a public communication framework. Today, we are therefore pleased to welcome representatives from the institutions which lead and support the work of the New Petroleum Producers Group, namely Chatham House, which is the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Commonwealth Secretariat, and the National Resources Governance Institute, NRGI, and the members of their team. All are international experts who have served and continue to serve in varying capacities within government, private, and not-for-profit institutions. Guyana has been a participant and beneficiary of these discussions over the past few years. However, since May of 2015 and the discovery made, Guyana's participation in the March 2016 meeting in Kenya took on a different focus, and we have shifted from a hopeful new petroleum producer to a soon-to-be new petroleum producer. The group has lived up to its mandate by responding positively and practically to Guyana's change in petroleum production status, and apart from giving general advice and support as requested, the group has also made Guyana the beneficiary of a unique and open exchange program with Uganda called a mentoring exchange. Uganda was chosen and approved as a suitable mentor for Guyana, having recently completed its preparation for oil production set to begin in 2017. Since Guyana is on a similar path, we will gain valuable insights from the recent experiences of Uganda, which has established needed frameworks and institutions and has been diligent in its approach to developing its oil and gas sector. And so since our visit in July, Uganda has since issued a total of 8 petroleum production licenses to Tullow, Uganda Operations, and Total, EP. And we take this opportunity, as we did before, to congratulate the government and people of Uganda and to say how pleased we are to be a part of their historic progress as they are a part of ours. Today, we also have a delegation from Uganda. As I said, they will be here with us because we thought it was important to extend a special invitation for them to join us. We are being proactive in our approach to this emerging sector to ensure that all mechanisms which are necessary for the effective management and best outcomes for the people of Guyana are in place, even before the first barrel of oil is produced and sold. The government of Guyana will support the New Petroleum Producers Group and its efforts, and we will support the efforts of civil society and the private sector. We recognize the need for a highly skilled workforce, and therefore revamping the public education system and integrating the supply and demand of labor into a flexible technical vocational education and training system, one which will rapidly raise skills, are 2 key initiatives being undertaken even as we speak. We also recognize that those Guyanese who can participate in this sector today, and also that the government also recognizes those Guyanese who can participate in this sector today. And also we recognize the need to ensure room is made for those who wish to participate in the near and distant future. This precious resource is ours. It is a significant part of our national patrimony and belongs to the people of Guyana. It is therefore our inescapable responsibility as a government to ensure that this right translates into the concomitant right to work and develop within the sector. The sky is the limit, and we have seen examples of locally grown businesses within the petroleum sector develop to the point of offering their skills and services internationally, and we hope that the same will be the case for Guyana. Our aim is to create avenues and opportunities for participation, transfer of knowledge, and dissemination of the unique caliber of the petroleum sector into our own society, so as to create as wide an impact as possible into our local industries.